again, folks. This is Lit Literature and the Shoutouts. This is your host, JP, aka The Demon, and we're here, finally, to talk about Wizard & Glass by Stephen King, Book 4 of The Dark Tower. We've been waiting a long time to do this. Pretty exciting stuff. And I'm here with some of the usual suspects. From afar, we have the now bearded El Capitan.
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Demon. Right now, I'm hopping up and down like a decrepit goblin with my silhouette in the moon. I'm watching some flailing figure on a gigantic bonfire. I hope it's just a stuffy, but everybody is shouting "Charyu tree," and I'm just joining in the fun.
Ooh, that's cold, Andrew. It's cold.
I'm pretty sure it's just a scarecrow.
It's just a stuffy. It's just a stuffy man. A stuffy guy.
Yeah.
I hope.
Alright, Hitman here, getting ready for the weekend.
What day is today? Oh, yeah. Brett, the director.
All right. So, guys, we finally got to our semi-prequel. And we finally got to learn about Roland's past.
Yes.
I love this book, personally. I want to know what you guys felt.
Me too. I usually don't like prequels because I'm super into the story, and I was like, I don't want to read this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe at the end or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is probably one of my favorite prequels. It is my favorite prequel ever, and now I just want to read more of young Roland and his adventures.
And I think we get to, right?
Well, now that we went through the keyhole, we will read that in this intended sequence.
Nice.
So that does take place in between Book 4 and Book 5. So our next is Book 4.5, Went Through the Keyhole.
So you get more of it then.
Nice.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why this probably doesn't quite feel like other prequels where it takes you out of the story is because what he tells us is so linked to this story.
Yeah.
You know? It doesn't feel like it's like, a story was told and now we're going back to give more, context or whatever. It just seems like a natural progression,
also, I really like
even though we go back.
how they did it, how they finished up the last book.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know, I could have enjoyed it with that cliffhanger. And then they finished the cliffhanger, and then they started the prequel.
It's almost like he knew he couldn't just have a cliffhanger and then go directly into a prequel. You have to finish and then... Yeah. And also, I think he even talked at the end a little bit about why he hesitated to tell this particular story. But.
And even though Jeff swears he was very clear during the last podcast that we kind of got some closure on the cliffhanger, I somehow missed that. And I was very worried that this was just going to go straight into a flashback or something like that.
I know, Brett. Captain.
That's what I thought, too.
Yeah. Brett was reading it, and he came up, and he's like... We do get to finish this part.
Jeff's like, I know, I told you that. I'm like, I don't think you did.
Yeah, that was a big, pleasant surprise to me, too. Beforehand, I had heard, like everybody else, I knew that this was a prequel book. And at the point where we left off, I was very disappointed in that, and it actually took me a little bit longer to start this one. In my mind as a reader, I'm like, well, we're going to hear about these figures from Roland's past, and all of these figures are dead right now anyway, so a lot of this is not really going to matter. I felt like as I was starting the book, I felt like I was getting into a George R.R. book where he'll introduce a whole slew of characters, and you're like, all right, this isn't one of the main families. All of these people are probably going to die anyway, so it's pointless that I even bother to learn their names. And I kind of had that exact same feeling coming into this book. But the way, right off the get-go, like, he draws you in with the character of Susan, Cuthbert and Alain.
Cuthbert.
Both of those characters are super, super interesting right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So he breathes a ton of personality and really cool uniqueness into these characters. And I'm like, man, like, as I was reading them, I'm dreading, like, oh no, they're going to die at some point. Like, and that kept happening as the story continued. So it created, like, a different type of tension to me, but it drew me in and got me really invested in the story as much as any of his other books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I freaking love those characters. But overall, though, you say you liked it.
I did, yeah, definitely. Awesome. And for it being a flashback, the fact that I loved it so much maybe says even greater things about this book.
Mm-hmm. Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I never really have, in general, a problem with flashbacks. Anytime I'm into a story, I love just learning more about the world around it. Like, we've talked about this before, like Harry Potter or George R. R. Martin or like Westeros or, you know, Middle Earth. Like, these worlds that I get invested in, I could literally just read like an encyclopedia of facts about those worlds and I'd be interested. So, like, I kind of like flashbacks and like deviating because I feel like, you know, it's building up the tension of the main story and you're learning more and it kind of is like foreplay kind of. It's like weird. It's good. I really liked this this book. I really liked it. I mean, I've liked all of them so far, but this is probably my favorite so far. Yeah. I liked it a lot.
But man, I could see what you're saying. But like when the books are coming out, a couple years apiece.
Yeah.
And then
I have the advantage of being able to read it right after.
Story from where you're at, like, oh, now we're going way back here.
Yeah.
And like, no, because I remember having to read it in the real time when New Spring came out, and it's like I found out it was a prequel, but I was super invested in that story, like what was happening at that moment.
Right.
It's like, oh, now I have to wait like 5 more years.
Yeah. No, I completely agree that it could be frustrating, but I think frustration sometimes, even though you don't like it in the moment, it makes the having that frustration go away once you finally do get to go back to the main storyline feel even better. Yeah. You know?
Well, the good thing about this, again, is it's a combination.
Yeah.
We not only get the past, but we get maybe not a lot, but we do get some of our main Ka-Tet.
Yeah.
And
we get the conclusion of
we get the conclusion and we get a little bit in the middle,
which was really good.
Yeah.
The conclusion of Blaine was awesome.
Yeah.
That's this book, right? I'm not getting them mixed up.
Yeah.
Conclusion of Blaine.
It is this book.
Yeah.
It was
it was really good.
Dude, again, I don't know, every time I read these, especially now, I don't remember this as much the first time I went through, but when I read these now, I feel like it's like 2 books every time.
Yeah.
It's like I read a book, and like it kind of mixes up with this other book that I read.
Yeah.
And it's like completely fused because of the amount of development that happens during the series. But I did love getting to see Roland be made in a way. You know, or broken.
Yeah, I'd love to see Roland as a younger Roland. That was super interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm really starting to like Roland as a character, and it's really fun to see like kind of like how he's become the Roland that he is now. He obviously probably kind of came into his like he seems obviously like back then he's more of the Roland that he's now become again, and that the Roland we first met was maybe kind of a jaded Roland because of his experiences, but now that he's kind of with a Ka-Tet again, it seems like that's so important to him. He needs to have his peeps, you know?
He does. So I guess we'll move on a little bit, but I got to tell you guys right off the bat, one of the worst, or my most hated, not worst, I don't want to say worst enemy, one of my most hated enemies is fucking Rhea of the Coos.
I know.
I just hate that.
Yeah.
So well delivered in the audiobooks and also well written.
Pure poison, you know? Like straight from the beginning, she hates this girl, this young girl, for no other reason that she's young and pretty. Like she really has no other reason.
That being early.
I actually think
what a dick coming out.
I know. How dare you show up before you're supposed to.
I actually think the whole reason she truly does hate her isn't even about the pretty. It is because she interrupted her glass viewing.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Early. She was already becoming a crack addict with the
glass.
The glass.
Yep. But
and then she like sets out to do all this terrible shit to her just because of that.
Yeah. Well, and she stuck up for herself, which was
how dare she say she kicked me in the fire.
That was one creepy enemy for sure.
Yeah, man.
But I did like the dynamic that they built with the other characters like Jonas and the coffin hunters.
Yeah, the other antagonists. Yeah. They had there was a lot of good antagonists throughout this entire story.
Yeah.
Rhea of the Coos definitely being an extremely memorable one. Jonas in particular, and then his two cronies, Reynolds and Dupape, both had their own separate personalities. Even the guy at the end who kind of came in, Latigo, who was the direct contact for the good men. Even him and his band had, some character and some flair. So there were a lot of really neat characters, and I kind of right away you get the sense that this town, this hamlet of Mejis, it's extremely rural. It's a big ranching community, and you get the feel that Stephen King is doing a lot of horror with his rural landscapes. Especially just finishing Pet Sematary not long ago. There's a lot of rural horror that Stephen King puts in these stories. And I thought about that. I'm like, is he kind of biased against like rural settings? And then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, he really isn't, because in the previous book in Lud, you get all of these like city-dwelling psychopaths who are like living in the sewers and stuff. So there's a lot of antagonists, no matter what setting King will put you in. But having the rural setting created a very cool flair. And since this book in particular is a little bit more like Arthurian, as in like the legend of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, it creates an interesting contrast, putting that in a rural, like a cowboy in a rural landscape who's kind of like a knight. I don't know. It created an interesting backdrop.
A little sidebar with that. I think part of the reason that is that he like has those different types of settings for those specific stories. It seems to me that like anytime there's anything supernatural, you're always begging for something to be around to help you against this thing or to assist you. So like it seems like numbers would be a benefit when you're going against something that's like out there looming. So that would mean that you want to be in an area that's not very populated to make the character seem helpless. But like when you're in a city, the antagonist seems to be the masses, the large amount of people. So it seems like whatever situation puts you in the most vulnerable position is kind of like where he puts the setting of those specific stories. So I think
exactly.
I think you're right. I don't think it's like some type of harbored hate for
for the rule.
I love some of the scenes. They had like such a good standoffy Western feel. Especially the first time that they get into conflict with the coffin hunters in the barn.
It made me feel like kind of gunslinger-esque again. It brought us back to like Knot City, it felt like.
Well, I felt it was like, it reminded me of watching just some old Western movie, you know? Just had that perfect descripted
That's how I felt in Gunslinger. That's why I kind of felt like it. Tonally, it's felt.
The other thing that was cool is our good old piano player buddy made his return finally.
Sheb that bastard.
Sheb the bastard.
Can we talk about that scene really quick?
Yes, let's do it.
We might as well dive into it. Man, I was telling another friend that I have here in Phoenix who really, really loves this series. I was telling her about this scene in particular and how big of an impact this scene really makes on you with the brand new characters that we get in this story.
Yes.
Right away, Jeff, just like you said, you get this super Western feel where a crippled bar hand spills a beer on one of the coffin hunters, Dupape's boots. And immediately Dupape is like, I'm going to make this guy suffer. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to embarrass him. I'm going to humiliate him in front of all these people and just shoot him like the dog he is. And you know that because King isn't afraid to kill characters, you know that that's an actual possibility.
Yeah.
Like, oh, crap, we're going to have to sit through this scene and see how bad of a guy Dupape is. But no, like you hear this super awesome witty entrance from Cuthbert right away, and I'm like, yes, because you know that that's not Roland who's interrupting the scene, and I'm like, dude, I am now officially like a huge Cuthbert fan. This guy rocks that he interrupted this.
Dude, and the other badass part about that scene is Cuthbert. well, it's actually Shimi that they're gonna kill.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Cuthbert just has a slingshot,
I know, it's so
Right.
cool.
and he's still doing it. And and then the other cool thing is that's also kind of the introduction of Alain. And when he's there, his great introduction is that he's got the knife to the guy, and then Jonas comes around and gets the back of Alain and says, "Drop it," and Alain's just like, "No."
Exactly.
And then Jonas is like, "What?"
I know. I was totally thrown.
What do you
he
mean
was
no?
not prepared for that response
It's like,
at all.
no. I'm not gonna drop it. It was just a great, and it was great to kind of be in Jonas's mind during that, because Jonas the entire time was still worried about, because he's well trained actually.
Yeah.
Worried about somebody taking his back too, because he couldn't find the third one. But what a cool little setup scene. And then of course they have to shake in the church.
Yeah, I really like that scene. Cuthbert with the slingshot. I really like that. And it was really kind of interesting also to see, like, I don't know, like, I guess maybe this is part of their world, so they realize, but like me, I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't know if I'd be scared of a slingshot, but you forget, like, it's a deadly weapon
Yeah, I mean,
in the hands of a skilled person.
Yeah,
it's
they
just
weren't-
harder to use than a gun.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
He's shooting metal balls.
Yeah,
and it's-
exactly.
for like that distance, it took off his fingertip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And as soon as that happened, I was just like, oh!
Yeah.
I was like,
Well,
oh,
Yikes.
damn!
He
That
said,
sounds painful.
he
Yeah.
had said later on he would have took his finger off if
Yeah.
he had not barely shifted, or he didn't just barely miss. And then
Yeah.
obviously we know later on they used that slingshot to do some stealth attacks
Yeah.
on their own. So
Can we really quickly talk about that church scene as well?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention, after that huge, tense, tombstone-esque scene in the bar with all three gunslingers and all three coffin hunters, they're forced to shake hands and make amends in the church under the control of the sheriff, Sheriff Avery.
Avery,
And
yeah.
even though his character didn't amount to much in the whole of the story, I really liked his insertion as a character there, because he really did an awesome job breaking the tension, being like a comic relief.
Yeah.
Like, these two people are ready to rip each other's throats out and kill each other, and as the peacemaker, he just like comes in and like starts farting and be like, all right guys, we gotta try to get some kind of peace between you boys.
Yeah.
So he was a really hilarious character to put in there at that point.
And it's really cool how Stephen King can just, like, bring such believability to just a character that really isn't, like, super essential to the story.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I actually liked
Right.
the side characters that were with the sheriff too, like the just very
Deputy
briefly.
Dave.
Yeah, you get the kind of background of the Deputy Dave and some of these other characters of the town, which really kind of, it gives a little more impact to what happened in the Gunslinger, but it also gives impact into what happens later in this story as well.
Right.
So it's pretty neat. And also, I liked, again, getting these hints of the realization that this is really a post-apocalyptic world. Like, they come out into this rural area, they're starting to get thoroughbred horses again, and there's nothing but a big oil thing off the coast. And they call it the Sitco.
Yeah.
And it's just again like this really interesting reminder of the fact that our worlds are somehow tied together.
Right.
And there's some indicator that maybe they were the same world at one time. Maybe not, but it's hard to tell. Or maybe there's just a lot of crossover.
Yeah,
We
there
can't
could just
figure
be,
that
like,
out.
some type of crossover.
Yeah. So, but that Sitco in the background. And then obviously I thought it was very interesting. So Stephen King has been giving a quote and some unique passages in between each story. And this one obviously was highly influenced, or had a significant chunk of influence from The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Specifically. And in this case, not even hidden, just like straight up.
Yeah. Just using it. Yeah.
Like, and I don't know what it is about that, but it's like nobody really does that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool in its own right.
Well, yeah, he definitely seems to like want to. I mean, this seems to be a culmination of a lot of his body of work, but I don't think he wanted to have it so like unbelievable where the only crossovers happen to be like his
books.
You know, so I think he drew. I mean, even the inspiration for the first book. So the whole series might have potentially been kind of inspired by that short story.
Actually,
Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
Yeah.
So I think he just kind of knew that this whole crossover of the worlds and stuff like that, he was going to draw an inspiration from all different types of artists and pieces of work. And you know, Charlie the Choo Choo, I think is real. Did we ever find out if that was real or not? But I'm pretty sure
it actually is a real book.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it was made before or after this.
Yeah.
I think that somebody made it afterwards.
Yeah.
Just as like a super awesome shout out to Stephen King.
Possibly.
Because I actually Googled that earlier in the week and I found a full book, a full version of Charlie the Choo Choo with artwork and everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I was really surprised that before they entered the prelude with the Tic Tac Man, that came to like nothing. They just like revealed him, and then he was dead.
Well, see, that's the other thing about Stephen King is he seems to like go off on a whim on his characters. He may even set stuff up for later, and then just decide that his world's too real and people just die random deaths.
Because it was funny, like is it the Men in Black?
Yeah. Well, we think. At least I think.
Like, he like brings him back to life almost.
Yeah.
And
so
like, mind controls him, brings him all the way from Blood to this place,
wherever the
and
fuck
sets
this
him up
is.
in this
Topeka,
place.
Kansas. To Kansas.
Yeah.
Kansas.
Yeah.
And then Oi finds him, and then it's just oh, it's you.
Yeah.
He just gets gunned down.
Gunned down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of confused by that as well, Ben. I'm like, oh, that was kind of a bit of a fizzle of a character right there. Like, I'm wondering maybe if Stephen King was like, ooh, I'm going to bring this character back and it's going to be like a super epic showdown. And then as he was writing this book, he's like, I don't really figure a place for this guy to show up again, so I'm just going to make him pop in and die right away.
So I wondered about that too, and I was thinking about it, and then I thought that he was maybe thinking he might have had something cool, and then he's like, you know what? Randall Flagg's bad enough, and he's also twisted enough that he would bring this guy back for no fucking reason at all, just to screw with him.
Yeah.
So
I also think there's a possibility that he just felt like, you know, plans just don't work out. Like maybe he did have a big, you know, plan for him, and then he was just like, well, that didn't work out.
Right. Can I'm just going to mention one thing about this scene because this pertains directly to the Wizard of Oz and what we're talking about. There is a super awesome quote that I just want to read from this section, which I took an extreme amount of pleasure from. It's when they first encountered the Oz, the Great and Terrible. Oz, the Great and Terrible, as Zelda would say.
Yeah.
Basically, the story goes, I am Oz, the voice thundered. The glass columns flashed, so did the pipes behind the throne. Oz the Great, Oz the Powerful, who are you? Susanna rolled forward until her wheelchair was at the base of the dull green steps leading up to the throne that would have dwarfed even Lord Perth. I'm Susanna Dean, the small and crippled, she said. I was raised to be polite, but not to suffer bullshit. We're here because we're supposed to be here. Why else would we have been left the damn shoes? So I'm like, dude, that part was so awesome.
That is amazing.
That was like one of Susanna's best moments, in my opinion.
That's amazing. That also shows the gunslinger-esque of the Ka-Tet that they've all become. In a way, I think, as Roland sees his current Ka-Tet becoming so strong, and Susanna crippled, just rolling right up there and giving some data to that fool.
Yeah. It also kind of makes me think of like just the idea of like in stories or in real life in general, like how something can happen and you'll interpret it in a certain way that gives you such confidence in what you're doing. Like, maybe you didn't get the shoes because it was some divine intervention. Maybe you just got the shoes. But she's like taking it as like, it's like, we're supposed to be here, you know? It's like, this is us. It's like, it's kind of like Xerxes from, or whatever his name is, from 300.
Yeah.
And like, as soon as he got cut, he's just like, so like, what the hell happened? I'm supposed to be a god, you know? It's like, you end up believing like your own like hero's journey and being delusional about it. But I mean, obviously, I feel like it's real in this sense, but it just, I thought that was funny how like these little possibly luck incidences can just completely put you on a path.
So let's go back now into town. And well, actually, before we get into town, we should finish Blaine.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't even do that. We didn't even do that.
We're jumping around like crazy in this one,
I know.
but that's fine.
That's fine.
It's because, again, it feels like 2 books.
Yeah.
In my memory, it feels like we already talked about Blaine. But the reality is that Roland forgot the face of his father, and Eddie killed Blaine with jokes.
Yeah.
Childish baby jokes.
I know.
He stupefied him.
Yeah. I love how Roland afterwards is just like, I need to apologize.
Yeah, I love that. He actually manned up like, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And you saved us with your stupid jokes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Roland was still right. I don't care if that's what saved him. That was a stupid riddle.
I gotta tell you, though.
But they weren't riddles, they were jokes.
Jokes, yeah.
I love the fact...
But they were supposed to be telling riddles.
Yeah, they were. But I did love the fact that Eddie, that delivery, I don't know if you guys audiobooked, I did the audiobook. That delivery was like, I think I was listening to it at 1.25, and it was delivered on like crazy, just the intensity that he was like, joke, joke, joke.
Yeah.
He just kept going and going and going, and I just, that part was really, really
It was so
intense.
and then he went full gunslinger mode, drew and like,
just
like unloaded
Yeah.
on the computer screen.
Little did Roland know back when he was in the city in possession of the Pusher's body, and he was taking the ammunition, and he's like, what would I ever need 125 bullets for? Now he's like sharing all his guns and ammunition.
I know.
And but
I think one thing humanity has always proven is true is that if you can find enough resources, you'll also find a way to spend it.
Yeah.
You like
very true, director.
You use resources in direct correlation to the amount available.
Yeah.
Right.
But so they kill Blaine. Very happily, they kill Blaine. Mm-hmm. And
I just love thinking of like
Blaine
this
was such a pain
as like a kind of somewhat like hobbyist programmer. I just love thinking of like just him hearing these things and not being able to calculate it and just going like in this infinite loop that like overheats his brain.
So I loved this next part after they murder Blaine through stupidity. Which, by the way, he wanted to die anyway, that bastard. So screw him.
Yeah.
But the next part, I don't know if you guys read this at all, but I absolutely loved it. And the Kansas that they go in is the Kansas of the Stand. And they make that extremely clear, including our good old buddy Randall Flagg's jeans and cowboy boots. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Captain, did you have a chance to read The Stand at all?
I did not. I have not read The Stand, but it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, so in this book, at least, I don't know if it's true still or not, but in this very book, Roland says that this might be the closest world to theirs, and I wonder if Stephen King is implying how close the crossover is. And when I read The Stand again in the future, I'm going to pay very close attention to good old Walter / RF's cowboy booted track through Kansas to see if he ever takes a little detour. Maybe
and buys the Kansas City Royals and renames them the Monarchs.
Yeah, something like that. I love the name of their Coke in this world.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. What was it again? It's like it was something hilarious.
Something with an N.
Yeah, like
Is this from a different book?
No, this.
This is from the end of this book.
They go to Nazazaz or some goofy ass
Yeah,
name.
something like that. Yeah.
It's hilarious. There's no Coke.
that.
Instead,
I don't
there's
remember that either.
next time. Oh, this is perfect. Next time I won't leave. Renouncing the tower. This is your last warning, and have a great day. RF.
Oh, I
Below
know
that,
now.
a little drawing of a thundercloud. It's so awesome.
Yeah, they got like school box lunches
Yeah,
when they got kicked out.
Oh yeah.
they sleptwalk away with school box lunches. Yep. I'm gonna find this too. This ridiculous.
Oh, it's Nazala.
Nazala, that's it. Nazala instead of Coke.
Nazala.
Yeah. So the thing
That's
is,
a much better word for it.
Nazala.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did really like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so anyway, they're in this Kansas, which has been devastated by a quote-unquote plague.
Yeah, it seemed like the entire country of the United States had been devastated by the plague, right?
I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire world. Yeah,
They
it's kind of implied that it's the whole world.
They found a note about the old woman in the east and the whatever man in the west on the windshields, which direct notes of the stand. So, guys, if you're going to read that, at least you have a little hint, self-advertising for what you might be expected to come across there.
Some Easter
Yeah,
eggs.
this is actually the first Stephen King's book that I've ever read.
Oh.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, you didn't do Pet
Crazy
Cemetery
guy.
with us?
I
Forgot.
don't know what that was.
It's so good, man. Read it.
We did do some Pet Cemetery. The Stand we'll definitely have to do at some point.
Cool.
It's quite. I mean, there's all kinds of them. The other crossovers being a lot of his books. So
Yeah.
we could always do it and other things. But regardless,
There definitely is a small part of me now that I know like what this world kind of consists of that I wish I could have or even had the time to read like all of Stephen King's books and then read this because I know that it kind of balls them all up and uses them as inspiration.
it does. But the
Yeah.
good thing about this is he's been writing his books all along.
Right.
So this was actually one of his first ones, which is why he says like, why shouldn't all my other books not somehow touch it because it started before all of the other ones.
Also,
And-
and actually, some of it came in reverse, where he took these characters and then put them into the other books or used them in other
I think
books.
that
some
he
of them.
started this and he just found it accidentally all culminating.
Right, that's cool.
But so I think you're okay reading it in whatever order you want. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
kind of cool.
I mean,
to
I don't
see.
think it's a huge deal, but it would have
Yeah.
been kind of cool to get those and then come through this and been like, oh, I know him.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. The epilogue in the audiobook recording
Yes.
was really, really insightful. Stephen King himself mentions at the very end, he's like, I've written enough short stories and novels to fill a universe, but the Dark Tower series is my Jupiter, meaning that like everything else I've done is smaller in comparison to the world of the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
And for him, that's like one of his major accomplishments in all of his stories is this Dark Tower series.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of neat.
That is cool.
So let's jump real quick now that I've refilled my goblet. Let's go. I mean, we're in town. These guys are tasked by their fathers to count, basically inventory, far out baronies.
Right.
And
Now, did anybody else at the very beginning think that was a farce?
It is.
That they were right? It
well,
was,
no,
right?
they are really doing.
They are
it,
really there doing that.
but their covers
Yeah.
are a farce. They know they're actually doing it so that Roland doesn't get killed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
by-
did you
Stephen-
guys think that they were actually there to do that, or did you know? I don't remember when they revealed that it was a farce.
They
to us.
reveal pretty
Right away,
early
almost.
that
Do they? Okay.
that Stephen Deshane wanted them safe and out of the way. Otherwise, Walter would make targets of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So right away, they let you know that they're just kind of getting the kids. The main reason they're going there is to be out of
Walter O'Dim's hands.
Right, yeah,
out
is
of
to
the
be
danger
out of
zone.
Gilead.
Yeah, they sent him there because the fathers, Stephen O'Shane, was like, I know this place was just a quiet town.
Yeah.
You counted stuff for us. Like, it's an actual job that they're
Yeah.
supposed to do. But
Yeah.
it's just supposed to be easy and
Yeah.
a quiet place. Nothing was supposed to
Not
happen.
filled with intrigue and enemies. Yeah.
A place
It's
full of-
almost as if Roland is
Yeah.
destined to find trouble.
Yeah, but it was. I figured like it was supposed to stay there for a year or two.
Yes.
To grow up a little bit.
Yep.
So when he comes back, he's not so much of a kid.
Yeah.
Because during the course of the story in the town, you can see how
Gilead?
yeah, no, not Gilead,
Mejis?
Mejis.
Yeah.
That the choices he made, like, was so wrong, and his older self would never have made them.
Yeah.
When he could have killed Rhea of the Coos.
Oh, if
Yeah.
older Roland would have murdered Rhea of
Yeah.
the Coos in a heartbeat for half of
man,
what she
yeah.
did.
But if these things didn't happen,
Yeah.
He wouldn't have
that
done
older Roland
Yeah.
may not have. you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But even they said like the fathers would have killed her, but they couldn't bring themselves to
They
do
were-
it
yeah,
because
they were too-
just kids of
Yeah.
14.
Not only that, but also the mistakes he made about his relationship with Delgado. Is that her
Susan?
name? Susan.
Yeah, Susan
Delgado.
Susan Delgado,
Yeah.
yep.
And how that like put him in a lot of danger.
yeah,
And
he might have been okay in the end, but he
wasted a lot
obviously-
of time.
He wasted a lot of time, and that was really frustrating to Cuthbert and Alain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's for
because
sure.
I was really surprised he didn't like report back.
I know that was
to-
frustrating Cuthbert like to no end.
Yeah.
Why are we not telling them this?
Like-
and then by the end of it, Roland's
Yeah.
like, it's too late anyway. It's like, they need to know
Yeah.
this shit anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it got to the point where they definitely should have said something, Jonas stepped in and
Yeah.
ended that option by snapping all the pigeons' necks.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they couldn't report
Yeah.
back to Gilead even if they wanted to.
I was really surprised. Like, I have no idea still. I've read the book twice now. How
wow.
Roland knew he was going to come to the house that day and, like, destroy the stuff and kill the birds.
I think it was because Roland is not strong like Alain or Jake with the
Strategic.
touch, but he has they talk about it in the Gunslinger and pretty much in
Yeah,
every
he
book
has a
they
really
mention
strong
it.
intuition.
He has a ridiculous instinct.
Yeah.
And he just kind of, as a chess player would. Also, he calls himself slow, but the truth is, he's actually I would say he's a master. What they call it, hills. Mm-hmm. They called the game hills. Is that what the game was?
Castles.
That was
Castles.
it. Sorry, guys. They called the game castles. He's naturally understands the game
Right.
of castles, and he knew that's what they were playing. And
Yeah.
he may not have known, but he had a strong intuition that at some point soon
Right.
they were going to come.
Right.
Yeah, but
So-
he got down to the day because he's like, if by tomorrow you still want to send a note, go ahead.
Yeah.
And of course,
That's
that's the
true.
day that he came and
Yep.
ended that possibility.
That's
He had
true.
it.
Yeah.
He had it down, man. But also, that could have been partially luck, too.
Yeah,
Because
But-
he
yeah.
was also distracted.
and it was
Yeah.
so frustrating because he had this plan, and he's like, "Oh, I can't share it with my friends," and then he
I know.
realizes, like, "Wait a second, I can."
I'm
He's
so
in
love
charge.
drunk. I can share this with my friends.
I know.
And it
Roland
would've been
for
so
a
much
while was
better.
like being driven home by a drunken Uber driver. It's like, I know this is your profession and you're good at it, but
And the sad thing is he still was good at it.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also agree. So, like,
Well, I think even him being bad at it is still better than most.
yeah,
you know,
that's probably true.
But I definitely think he was blinded a bit.
He was.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of
He was
things that he
impaired.
could have done and kept doing, but he should have been way more communicative to his team.
Yeah.
Because they were in the dark for way too long.
Yeah.
And then they're just seeing
Yeah.
him do all this weird shit.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to blow our mission?
Yeah.
He should have seen
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
his team was like falling apart and
Yeah.
losing faith in him and done something.
I-
But
I-
hey, guys, I know I'm distracted, but here's the plan.
Yeah.
Well,
And this is why we have to stay in cover. Sorry.
I'm sorry, that was my fault. I thought you were done.
I'm done.
I personally think that there's actually a part of him because he's so because he can be so analytical and strategic, I think that he knew that if he let them know exactly what's going on, they would speak sense into him that he cannot have this relationship.
Yeah.
You are going to be blinded by it. This is going to interfere with our mission. It's going to cause trouble.
So he just
and I don't
left it.
think he wanted that open for discussion. He didn't want that on the table at all. I think there might be a part of him that even if it wasn't conscious, there's a subconscious kind of instinct that he had knowing it's not good to tell anybody about this because it's going to have to end.
Just let him wonder.
Exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, really interesting. Certainly to see Roland that way is very interesting. And it was cool because you could sense it was him, but it did feel so much younger.
Yeah.
You know? So
I mean, I'd feel that way about myself at that age.
Oh, yeah.
You know? I'd look at myself at that age and be like, is that me? I mean, it looks like me. It kind of talks like me, but you're so different.
Yeah.
Because they're like what?
14.
14?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
They're turning 15.
That's
At
like,
least Roland was
I mean, I understand
going
they
to.
grew up in a much harder world, so they grow up and mature quicker, but like 14, falling in love, like there's no more time that you're going to act like an idiot than being 14 and in love with somebody.
Yeah. Right. So, and actually the amount of screw up damage he did was minimal until, well, that wasn't even really his fault, you know, towards the end, but some of
Freaking
that shit
psychotic ants who like
she went
Cordelia.
the total sleeping result. He waved and almost was being flirty with a whose niece is supposed to be super hot.
Yeah.
Like who's not?
But she's
flirting
so
with her?
paranoid, she called it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that Rhea was like, I'm going to deliver this note and it's going to be like whatever. The psychotic aunt was already on to him anyway, just because she's crazy.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. Like, the funny thing is, in both circumstances, if they just let Rhea get her way with the note or with the hair, the outcome would have been so much smaller. Because the aunt was crazy enough to not, she would want to hide that from the mayor because she still wants her money.
Right.
And the hair is just hair.
Wasn't the note being sent to the mayor, though?
No,
It was being sent to the
sent to the
aunt
aunt?
because
Okay.
she wanted to just cause havoc
She just
with
wanted to cause
Susan,
trouble.
but she didn't want to cross the mayor.
Right.
But I think the ant.
Because Mayor had the ball, and he could go
Mhm.
take the wizard
If,
glass back.
Oh, yeah.
the ant got that note, I think she would have taken that note to Jonas, and then to get them to do a showdown.
It could be too.
And
Interesting outcome.
because she wouldn't go to the mayor, that's for sure.
She definitely wouldn't. She might go
But-
to Jonas though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to get them to kill them or set up an ambush at the house, I think that would be more likely.
And Jonas was like a hired hand, right? He wasn't of the town.
He was a mercenary.
Correct.
Yeah, he was a failed gunslinger.
Failed.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So he had origins in Gilead itself because Court's father
Broke his
trained and flunked Jonas.
So it's interesting to think about that because he was probably 20 when he failed.
Yeah.
Because Roland did at 14, super young. Like
Yeah.
no one's ever done it that young.
Yeah.
His dad was the earliest before him.
Yeah,
His dad
and-
did it at 16.
16.
So like
So,
most people,
yeah.
probably 20, 18, maybe something
Yeah.
in there.
You
18
tend to
to
wait
20.
as long as you can until
Yeah.
you're actually confident that you can beat this old
And so
bastard.
Right.
he had that much
it's a-
training.
Because it's a hard ass old
as a
bastard.
gunslinger.
That's
and then
true.
he got kicked out because he lost to Court's father.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
didn't even just get kicked out. He has a permanent limp
Yeah, he got a...
because Court's dad broke his leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but all the same, you could tell he has gunslinger instincts. He's great at castles. He clearly went through all of the training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he has it.
Right.
He's fast, quick gun draw.
You can hear how he thinks a little
Yeah.
bit like Roland, analyzing things.
Exactly. So he was definitely there, but Roland already at 14 was better.
Yeah.
Well, it was a
At least
quicker
luckier.
draw.
Quicker draw.
Quicker, better fire, but castles, playing castles might be even a little bit more towards Jonas, I think.
You
at
think
that
so?
point.
Because Jonas's little quip with the the sabotage of the place didn't pan out
It
at
didn't
all.
pan out, but his plan of saying "Do not come into town on feast day."
That did work.
Not feast day.
Yeah.
The reaping
reaping
day.
day. And then because they thought it was happening that day, but in reality it was the day before.
Yep. The great thing about that play was that they gave us that information before, and then they told us what Roland was thinking, and we're all like, damn it, it's so obvious it's a trap. Of course, that's obvious to us because we were given the information, and who knows what we would have thought. But
I'm just saying, for them two,
played it worked.
Those two, Jonas came out on top at the end.
But then they had a great counter plan that would have worked regardless of what day they moved it, as long as they weren't captured in jail. But they were captured in jail. So, and also great lesson learned, because to that day, what had Roland said, they would never be captured like that, caught off guard again.
And
so,
even Jonas says later that Roland was the quickest he's ever seen.
Yeah.
When he actually fired on them.
Right.
But for Cassius, I think he comes out on tap. Just because Roland was so young and inexperienced.
that's true.
Old Roland,
Yeah.
I don't think he could even compare.
I don't think so. I don't know that anyone can. He's been living that life for way too long. But
he's 14 and he has like no experience in this
exactly.
intrigue. So
That's actually it's actually a mistake that a mistake that I made while reading was sometimes attributing what I know of adult Roland to young Roland.
I know, right?
And I'd be like, oh, Roland can get out of this. Then I'm like, wait a minute, this is 14-year-old Roland. Maybe this is going to be
And then you're thinking about it, and you're like, what does it take to make a man like that later? And you're like, a lot of mistakes, maybe.
Exactly.
Hard mistakes.
a lot of pain, losing, loss.
A question for the ages, Demon. What does it take to make a man?
Well, regardless, let's talk through his posse. So, Cuthbert, Alain.
Alain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, good point. Fitty, we got a little time left, and then after this, we'll take a break.
Yeah.
Cuthbert. Obviously, you could see the connection that Roland sees in between Cuthbert and Eddie.
Oh yeah.
However, the best thing that I liked about Cuthbert and Eddie is that although you could see the similarity, it feels to me like Cuthbert's different.
Yeah.
Right away. But also the same.
Right.
In some ways.
But different enough that my initial thoughts of are these some type of like reincarnations?
Yeah.
I was like, no, they can't be. They're different enough, but there's definitely parallels to be drawn, I feel.
I definitely
between all
wonder about that reincarnation thing, but to me it feels like they're very similar,
Right.
but different. I don't know how you guys feel.
But I guess they live different lives, so if there is a throughput, they could grow into be that different.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Totally understand.
Did anybody else feel like Oi was Shamey?
Shimi.
Shimi?
Yeah.
Oh, Shimi.
Oi.
Oi?
Shimi was amazing, by the way. I'd like to give him some props.
Yeah.
Because obviously Oi does not act like a normal Billy Bumbler.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's special.
I mean, that Billy Bumble might be smaller than
than Shimi. That's
Billy
true.
Bumbler's pretty smart.
That's true.
Although I got to give Shimi a ton of props because he did a few amazing things. Like
So
number
discreet.
one, stayed in the corn when Susan was getting captured and then followed him.
Yeah.
And then saying, if I go out there, I'm going to die.
I wonder
amazing.
if he plays it, up his stupidity sometimes.
I don't remember names.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know.
You're saying that
He's like,
might not
whoa.
actually be.
Yeah.
Dude, you remember names.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was thinking that too. In that movie Scream, or the comedy spin-off of Scream.
Oh yeah, scary movie.
Scary movie. And the
Yeah.
first one, where they go with the baseball, who ended up being the murderer.
Oh yeah.
Out of him.
Oh, man.
Baseball, like, oh god, he's just faking.
I did.
Wow.
I did.
What a ruse for the ages.
I know, man. I love the similarities between his Ka-Tet, but the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then,
Yeah, Shimi was pretty crafty because And brave, actually,
Yeah.
too, because he disobeyed Rhea the Kusa's command.
Yes.
Yes.
Direct command.
And gave that letter to Susan instead.
Oh no, she gave it to he gave it to
Cuthbert.
Cuthbert, his best friend in the
to
world.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Cuthbert.
Man, I just love that relationship, and I hope that book has more of Cuthbert and Shimi.
I don't
We'll
know.
find out.
I would assume that the Ka-Tet's gonna be there.
Well,
Like,
those two
I would
for
assume
sure,
Alain
but
and Cuthbert will at least be in it.
but I don't know if anything happened to Shimi at the end of the
Although we
book.
really, I mean, Jeff might remember a little bit, but I have no idea what period of his life it even does. I don't even know if it continues after this or if it's before or.
It's
or
right
what.
after this, but it's not the past. The past, there's a gap,
Right.
and then it's
Well, I mean,
like-
I know the order of the book is
Yeah,
came out there, but I don't know like what point in his life. There's a lot of life
it's
before
a little
now,
later.
you know.
It's Roland. My memory is that Roland is a man, but he hasn't gone off on the journey yet.
Right.
On the journey that he knows, even in this past, that he's
So,
going to have to
Which is
go.
a little interesting because we kind of see the initial trigger to his journey for the Dark Tower. I wonder what took him so long to actually like become as obsessed as he is with it.
Probably the fall of Gilead.
Yeah.
I think he was still fighting to keep that alive, and then once all his friends were dead,
Yeah.
the Gilead was ended. He's like, the only way to fix this is to go to the Dark Tower.
Right.
I think they stated that when they first started off for the Dark Tower, which I think it was after the fall of Gilead, he mentioned it. I don't know if it was or it was like during or something like that. Mm-hmm. But Cuthbert,
And Alan,
Alain, and Shimi went with him at first.
I kind of remember that they went.
He
out
said
together.
they went out together.
Oh, so
And-
Shimi is with them
Shimi was
Well,
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
at some point in the future.
At some
I mean.
point, yeah, in the future. Now, but in this book, I don't remember it well enough to say that. I just know that they're older, and I can't remember how many or whatever.
Well, we'll find out this week.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
I remember loving that book.
Yeah.
Which the one thing that I remember the most about that book is that, like this book, it's like a story within a story.
Mm-hmm.
That book is a story within a story within a story,
Right.
Oh, wow.
which I loved.
Yeah.
Storyception.
Yeah.
Stephen King saw Inception and he's like, adding a book to the Dark Tower.
That's what I needed to do. I forget. Yeah,
3 levels deep, baby. Time changes.
Yeah. It's interesting though. Like I'm interested to see how they get into the story within a story within a story, because like when Roland started telling the other story, he's like, I only want to tell this once.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about reading this one again as well, because last time I read through the series. That
Right.
book didn't exist.
That didn't
yet.
exist yet.
And
yeah.
then it came out later, and I was like, okay, I'll save it for a while. I saved it for a while, and then I read it, and I was like, damn, I love that book. If only, no offense, Stephen King, love you and love your writing, but I agree with Joe Rogan on this one, and don't read your own audiobooks.
Yeah.
Now, I did get used to it, but, I
Yeah.
was trying to attribute the wrong voices that I was already used to.
Yeah.
But you do get used to it by
Yeah.
the end, and fantastically written. But we will find out.
Cool.
And then we're on to Wolves of the Kala, and has anybody here read Salem's Lot?
No.
No.
I have.
All right.
Oh,
This is going to be
it's the
good.
game.
This is
Dude,
gonna
he
be
actually mentions a character from Salem's Lot at the end of this book.
I know, I don't know
He
why
mentions
he did that.
he mentions Father Callahan from Salem's Lot, and I'm like, oh yeah, the guy who just like ran away from the story. Interesting.
So,
Spoiler alert.
Are
yeah.
you sure he wasn't talking about the guy from MASH?
From Ash,
So,
Father Callahan.
I don't know about you, gents. I say we take a break,
Nice.
do a refill, and then finish this podcast up. We got a lot to talk about in terms of what happens to Roland and his Ka-Tet through their plans and failed plans, as well as the Wizard of Oz, Walter O'Dim, and the path to the beam, I guess.
Cool.
And without that,
Cheers.
we
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Cheers. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.